Man, how you going to make a movie about soul and not even have any James Brown in it? Or Aretha Franklin, or Marvin Gaye, or Sam Cooke, or even Hall and Oates, man. None of them, really? None of the soul greats? What? Oh, not that kind of soul. That's embarrassing. You know, you'd think running a horror channel, I would have figured that one out. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor, and I'll be your host as we go through all of the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to it in the description below, and it's going to give you a pretty good sense of what we do here at the Horror Movie Syllabus. In short, we look at a particular subgenre of horror, and then we pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore. But this is our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series. This is where I take a recommendation from you guys. Something that I haven't seen before that you recommend to me in the comments to one of my videos. I check it out for the first time, kind of without knowing what I'm getting into. And then I let you know what I thought of it. Did I think it's syllabus worthy? Did I think it's worthy enough, something interesting about it, or important enough about it to merit being on the horror movie syllabus? And today, the movie that we're looking at is The Soul Eater. And Soul Eater was recommended to me by the demonic cult, aka a friend of the channel, Sean, who blessedly explained to me how to pronounce that screen name because I was getting it wrong, frankly. To me, honestly, it kind of looked a little bit like the internet passwords that my wife picks. It's just like a bunch of symbols and numbers, and I can't read it at all. So thank you, Sean, for explaining to me, and thank you for giving us a recommendation. And the Soul Eater was one that's fairly recently came out, but I didn't know anything about this movie at all. Here's what I had to go on from Sean in the comment, which was on a VHS Halloween video, the Is It Syllabus-Worthy video we just did for that recently. Sean said, and I quote, that this was a hallucinogenic, meth-distributing cult that makes child snuff films. And hey, man, I got to check that out. That sounds kind of insane. And so that's all I knew going in. I didn't look at any trailers, didn't read any reviews, didn't do anything going in other than knowing what Sean had told me. And did I like it? Did I hate it? Let's find out. Like I said, the movie that we're talking about today is The Soul Eater. And The Soul Eater came out in 2024. So like I said, a very fresh new movie that just came out fairly recently. And this one is directed by a pair of men named Julian Maury and Alexandre Bustillo, and I'm probably butchering those names a little bit because they're French directors, and my French is a little wonky here. So they are directors, however, that we've talked about before on the channel because they did the movie Inside, which we talked about previously on the channel, and they did The Deep House, which we talked about not too long ago on the channel. So they are people who are familiar, directors who are familiar to the channel, to the horror movie syllabus, and so this was an interesting thing right off the bat to see what they're coming up with when those 2 movies were definitely syllabus worthy. Does that mean it translates here? Well, we're going to get into that in just a second. First, if you haven't seen it before, the movie is about 2 cops investigating 2 different crimes that lead them both to the same small, quiet mountain town. One of them is investigating some child disappearances. The other one's investigating a kind of a domestic violence homicide. And the 2 cases seem to be related. And in their investigation, they're finding out about the Soul Eater, this local urban legend, folklore, mythology about this creature that takes over your soul and causes harm. And there might be something to this legend, this story, as their investigation continues and the hijinks abound. But I'm going to go ahead and stop there so as to not spoil the movie for you, because this movie is, at its heart, a mystery and a really compelling one at that. Now, like I mentioned, the directors of this movie are French, and this movie is a French film. It is subtitled. And it's not New French Extremity, though. I want to be clear on that. Like, not like Inside. It's not New French Extremity, even though it does have some pretty good gore and some pretty shocking violence and stuff in this. It is not a New French Extremity, but it is a French film. And it is more of a mystery than like a horror movie. And it's arguably more of a thriller than a horror movie. It's got a really strong concept, though. It's got a good idea, a good setup, a solid foundation for this mystery. You know, it's got what is essentially like a police procedural aspect, you know, a cop investigating a crime, different cop investigating a different crime. Now they're going to have to work together. and solve both the crimes. But it's got this occult or supernatural urban legend folklore aspect to it, with the locals talking about this creature and kind of chalking it up as it might be a real thing, and maybe that's just what's going on. Now, the movie is adapting a 2021 French novel that obviously I haven't read, but so the source material is basically laying this groundwork out. But then it's up to our directors to try to sell this in a way that is compelling and engaging and draws you in. And I think they do this right off the bat. You know, you've got the two cops meeting each other in kind of a meet cute fashion. More on that in a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But then they get to their respective crime scenes, and there's an overlap there. And of course, you get a little bit of like the cops not wanting to work together but having to work together thing. But right off the bat, you're drawn in. If you like police procedural stuff, this is going to be an easy grab for you. It's going to really draw you in quickly. But even if you're a little bit more supernatural, you get the tone right off the bat that something's not quite right. Something is very strange about this. The details of the case are very strange right off the bat. And it's got a little bit of a like, kind of a long legs feel, really, in the sense of like you've got people investigating crimes that feels like it might be a supernatural aspect to this. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. The movie gets dark, and again, we'll get into that a little bit more. But it's setting up a really compelling mystery right off the bat. Already, the ingredients are in place, and you can tell that this should go pretty well. I felt confident right off the bat in this movie. Like within the first 10, 15 minutes, I was drawn in. I'm like, oh, I think this is going to be a really good time. I think this is going to be really interesting. Now, part of what was working with me about that is quality filmmaking. Again, these directors have made some movies that we think are syllabus worthy. They're very good, and they're doing stuff here that is also very good. This movie is very well shot. It looks really good. It's not artistic like artoury, like it's not like David Lynch or something like that, but it's very effective in how it's shooting its scenes. The camera work, the atmosphere is very moody. They found a really good locale for this. I don't know if this is a real town. I mean, it is a real town. They're shooting somewhere, but I don't know if it's the town that they're saying it is in the movie. But they found this town that they're presenting the story of this kind of a dying out town, and so all the locals are just kind of bristly people. They're not very welcoming or warm, and it kind of gives you this whole vibe of this like almost kind of Twin Peaks Lynchian vibe, really, of like just something's not right here. It's a really good backdrop for this mystery. They keep the pace up really well in this movie too. The investigation moves at a nice clip. It's giving you information and giving you new stuff and new shocking things that pop up to keep you engaged and keep things moving really well. And it's got two really likable leads. You know, you've got these two cops, and again, the way they meet is kind of like a meet cute thing, and you're kind of almost expecting it to be like a romantic comedy kind of thing in the sense where it's like, oh, now they're gonna like be drawn to each other and they're gonna like have a love story, whatever. Nope. No sexual chemistry here at all, which I really appreciated. These cops are both here to do a job, to do business, to get things done and accomplish something. And they're at odds with each other at some points because they're kind of stepping on each other's toes in a certain way. But there's no romantic aspect to it. And I thought that was a refreshing thing that, a Hollywood movie would probably lean into that and try to make them fall in love. And it didn't do that here. And I thought that was a very, very strong thing. And it kept the cops really as interesting as characters. Now you've got kind of some of the cop tropes that are going on there. Like they have like a mysterious past and stuff like that. And I'll get into that when we talk a little bit more about the storytelling. But these characters are pretty strong. Like you've got the bristly female cop who is clearly dealing with something and is very driven to get her case solved, and she doesn't really particularly like this other guy having to work with him. She wants to work alone. He, on the other hand, seemed to have that personally vested interest in finding these children. And so you've got two cops that are very driven, and you're drawn to them, and you're riding with them, and they're the ones running the investigation, and you're kind of solving it as they're solving it. Good stuff. They set up this mystery really quickly. Like I said, they get to that first crime scene and you're seeing the details, and it's very strange and off-putting, and something's not going on really, really early. It grabbed me really fast. I thought that this was a really cool setup, and then they start pulling in the folklore supernatural aspect to it pretty quickly. You've got this creature, the soul eater, and the way they introduce it is cool, and the first shot of it and everything like that is really effective. It's really done very well, and it's sparingly. They're not like showing too much of it. They're kind of keeping it hidden, and they're kind of keeping the mystery alive around this. You're hearing a lot of people talk about it. You're seeing little flashes of it and stuff like that, but you're not really getting totally inundated with it early on. And so they're kind of teasing you with it. Very effective. on all cylinders. That's the movie firing on all cylinders. The filmmakers are really just bringing their A game. They've really got a strong setup here that I'm really engaged by, and the storytelling is working for me too. The characters are really working for me too. Like I said, I really like the cops, and I think the people that you're meeting along the way in the investigation are interesting people too. The mystery is unfolding rather nicely. There are a lot of twists and turns in this story, and it kept me guessing. It is arguably a little convoluted, honestly. If I'm being fair, this might be a little convoluted. Some people might find this a little too hard to follow, might say it's a little too many twists and turns. I didn't feel that way. I was right with this lockstep. I felt like they were doling out the mystery breadcrumbs pretty regularly, pretty clearly, and I was following it pretty well. The folding into the investigation of the hints of the occult and the folklore aspect of the stories that just add to the police procedural, which I can kind of get a little cranky about police procedurals because I find them to be very formulaic, and that's what I'm saying. This one didn't feel quite so formulaic, in part because of this folklore supernatural aspect that's being kind of woven into the investigation. That worked out really well. Now, like I said, some of the stuff is a little bit tropesy. Like each of the cops has a mysterious backstory that kind of unfolds throughout the movie, which again is kind of like a trope. It's kind of like a played out idea. But I actually found this to be intriguing, not distracting. It might be because I was enjoying the characters so much, but I did find the mystery of their backstories to be compelling. It wasn't like a distraction from the case. It wasn't like get back to the case. I don't care about this stuff. It was illuminating as to why each of them is the way they are and what's driving them in their investigation. And yeah, you've got like the kind of the pissing contest between the cops and each of them wanting to solve things, the bad past, everything like that. But all of this is okay. It's all working pretty well because it's being done very well. This movie is giving me what I wanted. It's giving me a good, strong mystery, hints of the occult, a really strong atmosphere and mood. Now, I will admit, I kind of guessed one of the reveals of the ending a little bit early. Now, like I said, Sean had kind of given me a little bit of what to go on there, but like in terms of revealing something, I don't want to get in because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but there was one aspect to this that I thought was kind of telegraphed pretty early on. It was a little bit obvious. I don't know if they could have done a better job of hiding it. Maybe they could have, but it really didn't just diminish the movie much for me because at the end of the day, I could see this movie unfolding in one of two different ways. And I don't even want to say what those different ways are because I feel like it's a spoiler because it does go down one of those paths. But either of those paths would have been great. So as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, it's either going to happen this way or it's going to happen this way. And I'm good either way. Either of those is going to be an enjoyable experience for me. And it did go one way and not the other. And it was an enjoyable experience for me. I really, really liked this movie quite a bit. It was delivering what I wanted from it. And it was a pleasant surprise because I didn't know anything about it, and it had all the markings of being like a tropesy, basic police procedural, police investigation kind of movie, and it did a lot more than that just by simple filmmaking and solid storytelling. But does that mean it's good enough to be on the syllabus? Let's find out. So, is the Soul Eater syllabus worthy? Maybe, yeah. Maybe because I think it's a really fresh and really well done version of a kind of different ideas or concepts, police procedural, mystery, folklore, occult, and it's kind of put all together into something that's working really, really well for me. Really just done well filmmaking wise and story wise. The challenge is finding a place for it, finding a place that it fits because, like I said, it's not New French Extremity, right? It's a thriller. You could call it a thriller. It's got some folklore aspects to it, but I don't know I'd be comfortable putting in the folklore subgenre. It's a foreign film, so you put in the foreign film, but we didn't really do like a French films. We did New French Extremity, so you can't really fold it there. Is it a mystery? Yeah, absolutely, it's a mystery, but it's also more than that. So like putting it in mystery feels weirdly kind of reductive. Again, it's kind of hard to talk about this fully without spoiling it. So you're kind of having to take my word for it that there's not really a perfect subgenre fit for this movie, which I think is a compliment to it. I think that kind of like Korean movies, it's blending a couple of different subgenres in a way that feels very normal and cohesive, and doesn't feel like a mishmash or a hodgepodge. It feels like it all flows together and makes sense really well. Again, a compliment to the movie, but makes it a challenging thing to figure out where I would put it on the horror movie syllabus. And even if I could figure out where I want to put it, I wouldn't tell you because it'd probably spoil a little bit too much of the movie. And you don't want this movie spoiled, to be honest with you. You want to go in as blind as you can and check it out. It's an excellent movie. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I had a really good time with this one. I had to watch it a little bit late. It's been baseball season and playoffs and stuff like that. So I had to watch this movie kind of on the late side, which can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes. I'm a little tired, and if a movie doesn't grab you, you can kind of, kind of check out on it. This movie locked me in. I was wide awake. I was locked in on this movie. And you know what? It needs more love. Like, Sean brought this to my attention. He thought this was a little underrated, I guess, and he's right, because this movie doesn't have much buzz at all. It doesn't even have its own Wikipedia page. It has an IMDb page. I couldn't find a Wikipedia page. If there was one, I couldn't find it. I missed it somehow. So this movie needed more love, and that's why we're talking about it here for sure. I'd say it would squeak its way onto the syllabus if I could just figure out where. And that, I think, is a good enough endorsement. So definitely check this one out if you haven't checked it out. It's relatively new, hopefully not too hard to find, but it's definitely worth your time. Definitely worth your time. So that's my thoughts on The Soul Eater. Yeah, this one was a blast. I really enjoyed this one. It had all the makings of being kind of rote and kind of predictable, and wound up being anything but. I was very pleasantly surprised at this one. It was a great experience, and I hope you guys check it out. And if you do, let me know what you think in the comments below, because of course I like to know what you guys think about things. And now I'd like to know what you think about this horror trivia pursuit question. It's that time of the video where I ask a question live on camera and hopefully answer it correctly and not embarrass myself, and you guys can play along too. And since we're talking about the Soul Eater, and it's kind of this mystery thriller kind of thing, I'm going to go ahead and go with the psychological category on the card, okay? And so here is the question. Protagonist Rocky is one of how many thieves in 2016's Don't Breathe? And yeah, I do know the answer to this question. I do like Don't Breathe quite a bit. I know there's some mixed opinions on this one, but I actually like this movie quite a bit. It's a little bit shocking. It's a little bit, there's some aspects to it that are a little bit, troubling to some people, but I think it's a blast, in no small part because of Jane Levy, who is the star of the movie. She plays Rocky, the protagonist. And I know this movie very well. We talked about it on the channel. It did make the horror movie syllabus, and it is a movie that I enjoyed quite a bit, and it was pretty popular enough to get a sequel that isn't as good, if we're being honest. But the original one, I like this one quite a bit. And this is, not asking for names, right? Fortunately on that. So it's just asking for the number of characters. And I know that pretty well. Honestly, you could have just seen the trailer to this movie. If you remember enough, you might be able to just know this from the trailer, because you would see the answer in the trailer to the movie without even watching it. But, I'm kind of prattling a little bit to give you a little bit of time to think about this. But this is one of those ones, again, where you should either know it right off the bat if you've seen the movie, or if you haven't, you're probably just taking a guess, and that guess is just going to be a number. So go ahead and just lock in an answer right here. Like, either you know this or you're making a guess. Lock in that number. I'm locked in my answer already. So, okay, we're good? Okay. So my answer is, of course, 3. There is Rocky, there is her boyfriend, and then there is the boyfriend or the guy that wants to be her boyfriend, because he has got a crush on her. So it's three characters, and the card says 3. So yeah, that one was kind of an easy one for me. Like, I feel like if you remember Don't Breathe at all, if you've seen it, or even if you've seen the trailer and you remember it, you're going to see all 3 of those characters. You're going to know it's 3. So that one wasn't terribly hard in my opinion, but it was at least kind of a little bit offbeat. So I appreciate that question. But if you got it wrong, let me know how many you guessed. If you said more than 3, I want you to justify that in the comments below. But thank you very much, Sean, for recommending this. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me till the end of the video. Keep me awash in recommendations, y'all. I'm making a list of them, and if it's something I haven't seen, I'm gonna check it out and try to make a video out of it. Maybe I don't guarantee videos, but I'll make a video about it if I think it's good, and we'll talk about it here on the syllabus. But until then, I'm gonna just say, class dismissed.